Hi, Belle. Come here. Come here. Yeah, come here. Good girl. Come here. Oh, yes. Hello. Look, he's my Bella. But yes, I'm coming at you with a video that is all about my university reads. And I've been wanting to do this for a while. So, you're so calm. Here we go. Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel, Jen's Bookshelf. Today's video is all about my favorite university reads that I have come across in the past 4 years, and it's going to be centered on classics because those were the majority of the classes that I took, were like Victorian literature or like pre-1900 literature, kind of stuff like that. So, well, that's actually the same era now, isn't it? It is. So my first book that I'm going to talk about today is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This book is absolutely my favorite classic. If you don't know, this is about a girl, Jane Eyre, who is born and is orphaned and then goes and lives with her aunt for a few years, and then she is not liked at all, and then she goes off to school where she learns all the kind of arts and the basic things that you need to know to become a governess. And then she becomes a governess at this house for this guy named Mr. Rochester, and things ensue from there. He's got a wife in his attic, he's got lots of baggage, if you ask me. But it's really beautiful, it's quite gothic. Jane goes on really interesting and intense adventure in this, but I absolutely love this book. Please don't fall. The next book I have to talk about today is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This for a few years was my favorite classic that I have ever read. It is short but really dramatic, and it reads really easily, which I was very happy about, being new to classics when I read this book. It was my second year of university. I hadn't been super into classics yet, so this one was great. If you don't really know what it is about, it's about this guy, Dorian Gray, and his friend Lord Henry Wotton, and then a painter named Basil, don't really know how it's pronounced, who paints a picture of Dorian right at the beginning of this, and Dorian kind of falls in love with his own image, and he basically sells his soul somehow into this image, and he does not age from that point on, and all the terrible things that he does affect the portrait instead of him. So he remains as like this beautiful, youthful, kind of looks like he's an 18-year-old like model. But the portrait that he has, he realizes, is aging and turning into what his soul looks like. So a lot of stuff happens in this. It is very intense. I remember getting to a specific part right before class, and I read it, and I was like, what? And I couldn't read anymore because I had to go into class the next day. But yes, love this. This is definitely one of my top classics that I've ever read. So the next book I have to talk to you guys about today is Pride and Prejudice. This is, again, one of my top favorite classics of all time. It is this trio that I absolutely adore. This, if you don't know what it's about, have you not seen any of the adaptations? Where have you been? But, so it's about Elizabeth Bennet and her family, and it's quite intricate. It is hilarious. Jane Austen's writing is so witty and so funny, and it's about Elizabeth and her meeting Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley, and then it's about Jane Bennet, her sister, who ends up with Mr. Bingley, spoiler. But it's wonderful, and you get to see a lot of like the English countryside and all that kind of stuff. And I absolutely love this book so much. I've now read it twice, and I'm so glad that I got to study it in university with one of my favorite professors. It was just so much fun. That class was amazing. It was a Jane Austen specific class. It was a fantastic class. But yes, I love this. And I love this edition. I didn't actually study this specific edition. I think my friend has that copy because she was doing a project about marginalia. But yes, this book, absolutely amazing. I love it. And if you're looking for an adaptation of this book to watch instead of reading it, which you should read it, trust me, I go with the BBC miniseries because even though the 2005 movie is beautiful and I really enjoy it, it's not a good adaptation. I know. The next book I'm going to talk about today is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. So this was another book that I read in the same class that I read Jane Eyre. It was called The Victorian Novel, which was so fun, taught by another one of my absolute favorite professors. She was amazing. We read Oliver Twist. I think it was the first book that we read, and this specific copy is actually really cool because it is a facsimile of the actual like printed edition of Oliver Twist that was released every month in Charles Dickens' literary magazine that he did, and you can see the covers that were released alongside it, which is really quite beautiful. Oliver Twist, if you don't know, is a story about a young orphaned boy who starts off in a kind of a house for orphans, and then he gets moved into a factory where he lives and is in extreme poverty, and then he gets taken by like a thieving group, and then he gets taken by this wonderful man, and then he gets picked up by this wonderful lady and her daughter who turns out to be his aunt. There's a lot that happens in this book and it's really quite wonderful. It's I think one of my favorite Charles Dickens that I've read. I have read 3 or 4 of his books so far, and my friend will tell you that she despises Great Expectations but loves Oliver Twist. So, Oliver Twist, fantastic read. We're gonna see how long this row of books actually ends up standing. Alright, so the next book I have to talk about is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This I didn't read in my Jane Austen course. I actually read it in a seminar of mine that was called Old Books, New Science. It was all about, like, it's actually where my friend did her project on marginalia, and it's all about kind of the history of books, the physical copies, the manuscripts, and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. But yes, Northanger Abbey, fantastic read. We didn't actually end up studying it all that much in class because of the seminar format. We read like a book a week, which was very difficult to study because it was only a class a week for 3 hours. But if you are looking for a Jane Austen book that is short, small, and incredibly funny, this is your bet. This book is so self-aware. There are fourth wall breaks. There are moments where Jane Austen just like starts ranting about the writing just in general. But yes, really funny. It's kind of like, it's good to read around Halloween because it is a spoof on the Castle of Otranto, which is claimed to be the very first Gothic novel. I have not read that one yet, but I really want to. My friend read it and it's one of her favorite university reads as well. Catherine Morland is our heroine, and it is made clear on the very first page that Catherine Morland is not a heroine, not like the typical Victorian era heroine that you see, for example, in Pride and Prejudice, or some of the other womanly novels, I guess you could say. But yes, super funny. She ends up going to this old Gothic castle and she reads Gothic literature, and it taints her view of the family that she's staying with, and she accuses the father of murder, and it's a lot. Alright, so the next one, and the second to last one I'm going to talk about today, is Emma by Jane Austen. Again, another book, another Jane Austen, I know. But I read it in my Jane Austen class alongside Pride and Prejudice, and it was so good as well. I don't think it was as good as Pride and Prejudice in my opinion, but it was great. It was a great read. Emma is a super interesting heroine. Jane Austen herself claims that she doesn't think anybody else is gonna like Emma except for herself. I like Emma. She has one of the best character arcs in this book, but she does so many stupid things that I just wanted to yell at her most of the time I was reading this, but it's fantastic. So it's about Emma, who is a super strong-headed matchmaker, and it goes through how she doesn't want to get married, but then she ends up married, obviously, to problematically John Knightley, who is like 16 years her senior, which I guess is kind of normal for the time, but it's just strange because he like basically groomed her from a young age. Anyways, that's another discussion for another day. But yes, another fantastic Jane Austen novel. Definitely pick it up if you're looking for another novel to read of Jane's. I suggest this one. And last but definitely not least, my 7th favorite university read is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This book I ended up reading because I knew it was going to be on the reading list in the summer before my 3rd year of university, and I loved it. It was so different from what I thought it was going to be. So it's about this team of people. We have Jonathan Harker, we have Mina Harker, we have Van Helsing, who I hate, side note. We have Quincy, we have, oh gosh, there's a lot of people. Arthur, anyways, there's a whole ragtag team of people who are trying to defeat Dracula, basically, and take him down because they don't really know what he is, and then Van Helsing is like, I know what he is, but I'm not going to tell you for most of the book. Dracula, Count Dracula? Yeah. It's very good. I actually read this when I got past the first chunk, which is Jonathan in Dracula's castle, because he was going to visit him for job things? I can't remember exactly, but I actually thought the entirety of that book was going to be held at Dracula's castle. I was very wrong. I don't even think the first 60 pages are that. But it was very good, and really, really interesting to see how technology played into this one, because it was written near the very, very end of the Victorian era, and the time when all this new technology was coming in and becoming, it was kind of, I don't want to say feared by the Victorian people, but it was starting to come in and people were like, ooh, we don't know about this technology thing. But Bram Stoker includes a lot of that in his book here, and it's really interesting to see the juxtaposition between Dracula, who represents the foreign, the terrifying, the odd, in the old world, coming in to England, where we have our team of people who are trying to protect England. So yes, that's all I have for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It is my 7 top favorite university reads that are classics, because I have a lot of other favorite university reads that were more modern books for sure. But yes, leave a comment below if you enjoyed this, and if you are in university, what was one of your favorite university reads, or even if you weren't in university or out of university and have read classics books, definitely leave a comment below on what your favorite one is. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay kind and keep on reading.